Every word you speak is a potential weapon you're handing to your enemy. Most people are hemorrhaging power every time they open their mouths. They think they're communicating. In reality, they're confessing. This is dark psychology in its purest form, the systematic exploitation of human nature through what you refuse to say. You're in a conversation and the other person stops talking. The silence sits there like a weight on your chest. Your instinct screams at you to fill it. Every time you rush to fill that void, you're bleeding information they didn't earn. Most people treat silence like a social failure. Those who understand dark psychology treat it like a scalpel. In the next 15 minutes, you'll learn why silence isn't just a defense mechanism, but an extraction tool that forces others to reveal their hand, a technique mastered by everyone from Machiavelli to modern FBI negotiators. Master this and you control every negotiation, every confrontation, every power dynamic. Ignore it and you'll keep losing ground to people who understand what you're about to learn. When you stop talking, the other person experiences what neuroscientists call an amygdala hijack. Their brain starts screaming for a way out. It interprets silence as social rejection or dominance assertion. This isn't speculation. This is observable biology. Their cortisol spikes. Fight or flight activates. The human nervous system is hardwired for connection. Silence breaks that circuit. It creates a vacuum, and vacuums demand to be filled. To resolve this discomfort, they'll fill the void with information, apologies, or concessions they never intended to give. This is the overshare reflex. Watch it happen in real time. Someone makes a proposal. You say nothing. 3 seconds pass. They start qualifying. I know it's not perfect, but 5 seconds. They backtrack. Maybe we could do it differently. 7 seconds. They negotiate against themselves. You did nothing. You said nothing. And they handed you leverage. Interrogators from Sun Tzu's ancient warfare tactics to modern intelligence agencies use tactical silence to extract confessions without a single question. The method is ancient because it works. Sun Tzu understood in the art of war that the human mind can't tolerate uncertainty. A question can be deflected, a threat can be prepared for, but silence creates interpretive pressure that collapses resistance. Modern law enforcement calls this the pregnant pause, a core component of the Reed technique. Ask one question, then go completely silent. The suspect will fill that silence with details they never intended to reveal. Silence forces the other person to confront their own thoughts, which are almost always more damaging than anything you could say. Here's why. When you speak, you give them something to react to, something to argue with, something to deflect. When you say nothing, they argue with themselves. Their own guilt surfaces, their own doubts emerge, their own insecurities fill the void. You become a mirror reflecting their internal state back at them. This is the mirror effect, and it's devastating. It's essentially gaslighting through absence, making them doubt their own perceptions by providing nothing to anchor against. In professional settings, the person who speaks first after a proposal or criticism is the one who loses negotiating leverage. You present a number in a salary negotiation. The hiring manager goes silent. Your instinct is to justify, to explain, to lower your ask. That instinct just cost you thousands of dollars. The silence wasn't rejection, it was a test. And you failed by speaking first. You think silence makes you look weak or socially incompetent. The truth is that your need to explain yourself is what signals low status. High-status people don't rush to fill gaps. They don't perform for comfort. They don't manage other people's anxiety. They let the discomfort sit. They let others scramble. They control the tempo. This is the first law of conversational power. Whoever needs the interaction least controls it most. Now that you understand the mechanics, let's look at how the powerful have weaponized this throughout history. Spartan warriors were trained in laconic speech. They understood that fewer words carried more weight and that silence was a form of psychological armor. Spartan society built an entire culture around this principle. Young boys were taught that words were expensive, that speech without purpose was weakness, that the ability to endure silence was the mark of discipline. This wasn't about being antisocial. This was strategic economy. When Philip II of Macedon threatened Sparta with, "If I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raze your city," the Spartans responded with one word: "If." Philip never invaded. One word contained more threat than an entire paragraph of posturing. The Spartans understood that brevity signals certainty. Silence signals strength. Philip saw that silence and understood he wasn't dealing with men who could be intimidated. He was dealing with men who had already accepted death. There's no leverage against someone who doesn't fear the consequences you threaten. Silence is the psychological equivalent of a drawn bowstring. It holds immense potential energy. The moment you speak, the arrow is released and your position is revealed. Once the arrow flies, you can't take it back. Niccolò Machiavelli observed in The Prince that rulers who spoke less were perceived as more intelligent and strategic. Silence created the illusion of depth and calculation. People high in Machiavellianism, one of psychology's dark triad traits, understand this instinctively. Machiavelli warns against leaders who explain too much, who justify their decisions, who seek approval through transparency. These leaders, he notes, are quickly controlled by their advisors, because they've revealed exactly how they think, exactly what they value, exactly where they can be manipulated. The successful ruler remains opaque. He becomes a black hole. Light goes in, but nothing comes out. He lets others guess. He lets them project their own fears onto his science. This creates a psychological asymmetry. They're constantly trying to read him. He already knows everything they reveal through their attempts. The opaque ruler isn't more intelligent than the transparent one. He simply refuses to provide the data that makes him predictable. This is Robert Greene's Law 4 from the 48 Laws of Power. Always say less than necessary. Greene understood that when you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear. Negotiators like Chris Voss, former FBI hostage negotiator, use tactical silence to force the other party to negotiate against themselves. Voss calls this forced empathy. You ask a calibrated question, how am I supposed to do that? Then you go silent. This technique draws from neurolinguistic programming principles. The other party, desperate to fill the void, will start problem solving for you. They'll offer concessions. They'll lower their demands. They'll provide solutions to obstacles they created. You didn't negotiate. You didn't concede. You simply refused to speak. Trial lawyers know that the most damaging testimony comes not from aggressive cross-examination, but from letting the witness sit in silence after a damaging admission. Ask the question, get the answer, then stop. Don't clarify. Don't follow up. Let the jury watch the witness squirm in the silence. Let the weight of their own words crush them. The silence says, "We all heard what you just said. Sit with it." This is more devastating than any accusation you could make. Why does this terrify people? Because silence removes the social script. Most people are running on autopilot. They expect certain rhythms, certain responses, certain patterns of interaction. When you refuse to play along, they panic. Their rehearsed defenses don't work. Their prepared arguments have no target. Their emotional manipulation has nothing to latch onto. You've disrupted the pattern, and in that disruption, they reveal their true position. The asymmetry is this. You're calm and in control. They're scrambling to fill the void. This isn't a fair fight. Understanding the history is one thing. Implementing it without looking like a sociopath is another. Let's break down the execution. Protocol 1, the pause after their statement. When someone makes a claim, accusation, or demand, don't respond immediately. Let the silence sit for 3-5 seconds. This is harder than it sounds. Your nervous system will scream at you to respond. Your social conditioning will tell you that silence is rude. Ignore both. Count to 5 in your head. Maintain eye contact. Don't fill the gap. Watch them start to qualify, backtrack, or reveal their real motive. Well, what I really mean is, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not saying you have to just. They're negotiating with your silence, and they're losing. The man who explains himself is a man seeking permission to exist. Protocol 2, the non-reaction to provocation. If someone insults you or tries to bait you into an argument, give them nothing. No defense, no counterattack, just a calm stare. This is the silent disarm. It's pure stoicism in action, what Marcus Aurelius called the discipline of desire. They threw a punch. You didn't block. You didn't counter. You simply observed. They'll either escalate, revealing their desperation, or retreat, revealing their weakness. Both outcomes give you information. Both outcomes drain their position. The amateur argues. The professional watches them argue with themselves. Your reaction is their oxygen. Deny it, and they suffocate. Protocol 3, the extraction question. Ask one pointed question, then go silent. Let them talk themselves into a corner. Example, why do you think that? Then say nothing. They'll explain. They'll justify. They'll provide context. They'll reveal assumptions. They'll expose their reasoning. And somewhere in that flood of words, they'll hand you exactly what you need. One question, infinite leverage. One question is a hook. The silence is the line that pulls them in. The body language component is critical. Silence only works if your body language signals control, not anxiety. Maintain eye contact, not aggressive staring, not submissive glancing away. Steady, neutral eye contact. Keep your posture open but still, no fidgeting, no defensive crossing of arms, no nervous shifting. Breathe slowly. Deep breath signal calm. Shallow breath signal panic. You're the anchor, they're the storm. Your stillness amplifies their chaos. The common failure mode is this. You break the silence because you feel uncomfortable. This is your weakness, not theirs. You've confused your discomfort with social obligation. You think that because you feel awkward, you must act. This is the lie. Your discomfort is data. It's telling you that something important is happening, that pressure is building, that leverage is shifting. Don't relieve that pressure. Let it work for you. Train yourself to sit in the discomfort. Practice in low-stakes situations, coffee shop conversations, email delays, text message gaps. Build the muscle of not responding immediately. When to deploy this? Negotiations, confrontations, job interviews when they ask about salary, and any situation where someone's trying to extract a commitment from you. Anywhere someone needs something from you, silence is leverage. Anywhere someone's testing your boundaries, silence is armor. Anywhere someone's trying to read you, silence is camouflage. The ethical line is this. This isn't manipulation if you're using it to protect your position. It becomes manipulation when you use it to exploit someone who has no power. Know the difference. Don't use silence to torture someone who's genuinely vulnerable. Don't weaponize it against children, against people in crisis, against those who have no ability to walk away. Use it against those who are trying to control you, against those who mistake your responsiveness for weakness, against those who are playing games with your attention. You now have the protocols, but there's one final layer most people miss. When you consistently refuse to fill the silence, people start to perceive you as someone who doesn't need validation. This is the foundation of social sovereignty. The reputation effect compounds over time. The first time you stay silent, people are surprised. The second time, they're intrigued. The third time, they adjust their approach. By the 10th time, they stop testing you. They've learned that you don't react on command, that you don't perform for comfort, that your attention isn't freely available. This isn't rudeness. This is boundary enforcement through pattern. Your words become valuable because they're rare. When you do speak, people listen. This is Robert Cialdini's scarcity principle applied to communication. When you talk constantly, your words become noise. When you speak only when necessary, your words become signal. People lean in, they pay attention, they remember. Silence filters out low-quality people. Those who can't handle the discomfort will remove themselves from your life. Those who need constant validation will find other sources. Those who thrive on drama will seek more reactive targets. This isn't a loss. This is a filter. Those who can handle your silence are worth your time. Those who respect your boundaries are worth your energy. Those who don't need you to perform are worth your presence. The rest were never your people to begin with. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself, you're building the internal muscle of self-control. This compounds. Self-discipline isn't about willpower in the moment. It's about patterns repeated until they become automatic. The first silence is hard. The 100th silence is natural. You're rewiring your nervous system. You're teaching yourself that discomfort isn't danger, that silence isn't abandonment, that you don't owe the world a performance. Most people are terrified of their own thoughts. Silence forces them to confront that void, and they'll do anything to escape it, including giving you exactly what you want. This is the dark truth beneath all of this. The reason silence is so effective isn't because it's strategic. It's because most people can't tolerate being alone with themselves. Their internal monologue is chaos, a screaming choir of insecurities. Their unexamined fears are loud. Their unresolved guilt is heavy. The voice in their head that tells them they're not enough, that they'll be exposed, that they're frauds. This voice never stops. When you go silent, you force them to sit with all of that. The noise becomes unbearable, and they'll bargain, concede, reveal, or retreat just to make it stop. You're not creating their discomfort. You're simply refusing to relieve it. This is why silence works. Not because you're clever, but because they're broken. The trap to avoid: don't use silence as a passive-aggressive punishment. That's weakness disguised as strategy. Passive aggression is silent treatment deployed with the goal of making someone suffer. It's manipulation through withheld presence. Strategic silence is different. It's boundary enforcement. It's information extraction. It's control of tempo. One is resentment, the other is sovereignty. Know which one you're practicing. The final insight: the world doesn't reward the articulate, it rewards the effective. You can be the most eloquent person in the room and still lose every negotiation. You can have the best arguments and still be ignored. Because power isn't about who speaks best. It's about who controls the frame. Silence is the most effective tool you have because it costs you nothing and extracts everything. You now understand that silence isn't a gap to be filled, but a weapon to be wielded. This is the same principle that has governed power dynamics for thousands of years. In your next conversation where someone tries to extract a commitment, explanation, or apology from you, say nothing. Let the silence do the work. You'll see them break. But silence is only half of the weapon. Silence is the shield. In the next video, I'll show you the sword. The art of the strategic question. If you don't know how to pair the vacuum with the extraction, you're only half-armed. Click to see the full kill sequence. Subscribe if you understand that power lives in what you refuse to say. The courtroom is closed. You're free to leave.